हाँ मैं गुमसुम हूँ इन राहों की तरह, तेरे ख्वाबों में, तेरी ख्वाहिशों में छुपा, ना जाने क्यों है रोज का सिलसिला, तू रूह की है दास्तां, तेरे जुल्फों की ये नमी, तेरी आँखों का ये नशा, यहाँ खो भी जाऊँ तो मैं, क्या कसूर है मेरा। क्यों ये अफसाने इन लम्हों में खो गए, हम घायल थे इन लफ्ज़ों में खो गए, थे हम अनजाने, अब दिल में तुम हो छुपी, हम हैं शहर की परछाइयाँ, तेरे सांसों की रात है, तेरे होठों की है सुबह, यहाँ खो भी जाऊँ तो मैं, क्या कसूर है मेरा।
Hello everyone. So finally we are back with the third episode of Two Bookdragons and I am Meet the Wizard और हमारे साथ हैं, कौन है हमारे साथ? I thought you will introduce yourself.
Do you want to continue this shit?
I was like, you will introduce yourself, like थोड़ा सा अच्छा जुगलबंदी होगी. I'll be like, oh I am Saurabh और हमारे साथ हैं, they'll be like, oh I am Divya. I'm like, okay fine, let it be. So I am Meet the Wizard और हमारे साथ हैं Divya Anandani as usual. And आज हम लेके आए हैं एक स्पेशल बुक, जैसे आप पूरे हफ्ते से हम सोशल मीडिया पे वी आर जस्ट ट्राइंग टू टेल यू ऑल गाइस, एंड इट्स अ साइकोपैथिक थ्रिलर, इट्स गॉन गर्ल, जिसके लिए आप दिव्या के ब्लशिंग स्माइल से एक्सपेक्ट कर सकते हैं दैट शी इज सुपर एक्साइटेड अबाउट इट, एंड आप कवर दिखाना भूल गए, सो आई विल से वंस अगेन. सो आज की हमारी जो बुक है दैट इज गॉन गर्ल, व्हिच इज रिटन बाय गिलियन फ्लिन, एंड oh my god, it's an exceptional book. I mean, it's a nerve-wracking, brain-bursting sort of a book. It'll take you to a world जहाँ से आप वापस आना चाहोगे but आप नहीं आ पाओगे. If you once read it, you can't unread it. That's the thing. That's what is about this book, obviously. So what's your initial thought about it and how excited are you for this one? Sorry. Pardon me.
So when I people who know me would always like be like कि कोई book पढ़नी है, interesting होनी चाहिए, you know, should keep me gripping and turn the pages and everything. And the only book that comes to my mind, like I've read a lot of mystery thrillers, crime, that's mostly my genre. But the only book that comes to my mind is Gone Girl, because it is I have no words, okay, to describe the writing, the story, the plot, the ending. It is too perfect. I mean, it's this, it'll mess with your head, okay? It's going to mess with your head. It's a book that stays with you long after you've finished reading it. So, पहले मुझे लगा था मैं ही थोड़ी पागल हूँ कि, you know, मैं इतना सोचती रहती हूँ इस बुक के बारे में ये वो. But then there's this another friend जिसका मैंने कुछ तो post पढ़ा कि this book stays with you, okay? Like you keep coming back to this book. 3 days, 4 days, 1 week, you're still thinking about कैसे हुआ, क्यों हुआ, क्या पागल हो गया, क्यों किया ये सब. It's just that, and after this book, I think I got more interested in, जैसे सौरभ ने बोला, this is a psychopathic thriller book. So I got more interested in how these people का brain works, you know. Like I actually have this thing कि एक बार बैठ के, of course in a very safe zone, I want to actually have a conversation with like declared an official psychopath जिसको स्टेट ने या कोई फैसिलिटी ने डिक्लेयर किया है, just to know कि वो लोग क्या सोचते हैं. I mean, of course it's not something that I should be saying something very happy about or excited about. Ignore those expressions. It's a very serious thing.
You are saying in live. like एक लाइव पे which is gone up to stay. मुझे edit करने पड़ेंगे parts, मुझे ऐसा लग रहा है आज.
They are fascinating creatures. Okay, you have to admit they are fascinating creatures. They are manipulative. They show that they are empathetic and they're not. I just want to know कि commitment चाहिए होती है यार इतने हद तक जाने की एक अलग commitment. Like if this book यही book देख लें अगर जो था उसने अपनी पूरी लाइफ कमिट कर दी वो एक झूठ के सहारे रहने को. ओके एंड जो कि मतलब एक मॉरली राइट चीज होती है, एक दिमाग वाली मेंटली राइट चीज होती है, एक अलग चीज होती है जो ये लोग कमिट कर देते कि नहीं यही करना है, ये उनकी पर्सनालिटी ट्रेट बन जाती है. एंड इट्स जस्ट वेरी बैफलिंग टू मी एज अ कॉन्सेप्ट. Yes, I do want to have a conversation with a psychopath, and I am not saying this very excitedly from now on.
So any psychopath in the chat, please contact Divya Anandani. Description में details are available. Or yeah, so जैसे तुमने बोला that you always suggest Gone Girl because it's a psychopathic thriller. It reminds me of a kind of cruelty because that's the book जो मैं सबको recommend करता रहता हूँ because that same psychopathic thriller. And the both are very close to each other on many terms, especially क्योंकि love angle दोनों में है. And it's I don't know. Should we say that? I don't know. We should be proud or we should be sorry on ourselves that we love psychopathic stuff. Shit, man. We are discussing. What are we discussing on live? What are we discussing on live? This can be used against us anytime, anywhere.
No, but we have books to plan the perfect thing. Okay, I'm not saying anything. Our kind of cruelty, I think our kind of course we'll have a very in-depth discussion about our kind of cruelty next time. But एक basic difference is कि Gone Girl has shown parts, the male part का or everything, the female part का है. जबकि everything that has gone wrong with the two of them as a couple. And she has told, I think, Araminda that she's not going to release a female version of that. She's not going to release Verity's version of that. And so that is a very open-ended book for interaction. But ये वाला open-ended नहीं है. Once you're through with the discussion, all of you guys are going to ये दोनों पागल.
What's a part of मतलब वो इस book में आपको सब पता लगता है. But then there's still a very interesting thing that I really want to point out. थोड़ा सा मतलब लोगों को interest बनाने के लिए मैं बता सकता हूँ. The other thing is that इस book में गलत दोनों थे. And that's something that you cannot deny. They both were pretty wrong in their doings. But the question is that who has the right to punish somebody in what manner?
Punish them.
वही चीज है. But in a kind of cruelty you don't know who was wrong क्योंकि उसके end में 4-5 possibilities हैं which you have to think about. But here the possibilities are pretty straight and the conclusion can be driven around the part that they both were wrong many a times. But then who has the right to punish somebody? That's the question. And वही चीज है. Yeah.
This is like हमेशा we come across those books की दो right options होते हैं, एक ज्यादा राइट कौन सा है, तो that's always a dilemma. But यहाँ पे ना वो पूरा रिवर्स हो गया है, यहाँ पे दोनों गलत है. It's just कि गलत ज्यादा कौन है, किसकी वजह से. कभी कभी गलत वो काउंटर गलत भी हो सकते हैं, like वो गलत नहीं होते स्टार्टिंग में, but because you have to live with that person throughout, you start behaving like that person, acting like that person, reacting to that person, which makes you that wrong कि तुम ज्यादा गलत हो गए उस चक्कर में, क्योंकि उस चीज का स्टॉप नहीं है, उस चीज का एंड नहीं है कि when does this madness end. There is no question to that, no answer to that.
So going ahead, we'll start talking about the book now. I guess काफी हमने ऊपर के बारे में लोगों को बता दिया. The interest have been raised already, and people, you guys can jump in any time किसी भी चीज के बारे में. If you guys are interested in talking about psychopath like us as well, then please put it into the comments so that anyone watching this live later on do not feel that we are the only two mad people over here. आप लोग जो देख रहे हैं, आप भी हमारे साथ इसमें शामिल जरूर हो. So going ahead, what do you think about the cover? Cover के बारे में क्या कहना है?
It's very run-of-the-mill cover. It doesn't stand out particularly. So this is one of the covers that doesn't interest you when you're just browsing through a bookstore. You pick the title interests you, I think. Gone Girl. Okay, so the title interests you, yes. then you flip through the cover, like ठीक है, फिर तुम पीछे जाते हो, and probably when you read the gist, that's when it's interesting. So cover doesn't very this thing stand out, except that it shows a dark this thing, which is what the book is about. Also, it's a dark book, so that is what the cover represents. But cover को देख के नहीं समझेगा कि exactly हो क्या रहा है, या ये कौन से, मतलब ये तुम्हारी लाइफ चेंज करने वाली बुक है या नहीं, वो कवर के
I guess they have just left it on the title itself, as it says that every story has two sides gone good. So I guess they have just left it on the title and the postscript, and they are like, यही है जो हमें देना है. We do not want to give away anything else. So background में just color, they just have big कि कुछ तो बनाना है तो क्या करें, चलो कुछ भी बनाना. They just ended up making a, you know, so probably that's what would be the thought behind it. असली thought तो वही जाने. When a book is a bestseller, then every thought is a right thought, whatever attracts to the readers. That's what it becomes. When a book bombs, then every good thought is a bad thought, no matter what it is. So yeah, so that's one of the things. And now going ahead, characters बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरी part है, and we always discuss the characters first before going into the story. और इस book में बहुत सारे characters हैं, but we'll just talk about the main ones, the main 5 characters that I feel, excluding the author. The author is Gillian Flynn, and उनको हटा के there are 5 main characters that I feel inside the books, और बाकी छोटे मोटे तो इधर-उधर के characters that we'll talk about बीच में. So the first main character is the girl herself, Amy Dunn. So yeah.
So Amy Dunn is a New York born and brought up girl. Amy Dunn has Amy Elliott was her शादी के पहले का name, maiden name. Amy Dunn is her is the name that she gets after she gets married to Nick Dunn. Their husband and wife. Nick Dunn is our second main character. And Amy Dunn has 2 parents who are psychologists who write comics called Amazing Amy. Okay. And we'll go into the comics part later. Yeah. But she has grown up with that. They always were writing these comics. And even she became a writer. She writes personality quizzes. जैसे BuzzFeed पे what do you think of this sauce, and I will tell you your personality.
And a big part of fantastic Emmy, yeah,
Amazing
Emmy, yeah. A big part of Amazing Emmy, obviously she contributed a lot to that as well. And the second one was the Nick Dunn, who is from Missouri, a countryside place, and he's working in New York basically. He's a journalist working in the New York basically. Who, yeah, बात की jobs के बारे में बात करेंगे, but that's how they were introduced into the thing. And Nick Dunn has a twin sister, Margot Dunn, जो कि is introduced Missouri में ही. It's been just shown that she lives in Missouri, so जहाँ पे उसका hometown है, it's a countryside. And Nick Dunn has been shown that has 2 parents, but जब story unfold होती है, the real one, then he also only have 1 parent. The 1 parent had passed away already, which is a part of a story what happened. And his father, he has Alzheimer's, so he puts up his father in a caretaking place, and that's the thing. और इसमें बहुत ही 1-2 characters हैं जो एमी की लाइफ के इर्द-गिर्द घूमते हैं. Ex-lovers you can say, जिसमें से most important one is Daisy Collins, and the other few ones are not that much important, so we'll just skip by around them. और इसके अलावा, as we have already said, psychopath है, तो I guess it's not a giveaway that police और ये सब involved होगा. So the most important character of the police was Detective Rhonda. There we'll talk about Detective Rhonda is somebody who do not see the obvious. अगर आप उसको बोलोगे 1 + 1 = 2, she'll obviously go that why 1 + 1 = 2 and not 11. The killer is trying to do something, or the criminal is trying to do something, or the one who is the victim is trying to say something. So she always see the unseen. And there are few detectives, few lawyers, few other people, neighbors, etc. involved. And there's very important character involved that I guess they would love to talk about is the cat that Amy and Nick own.
Cat's not important in this book.
I wanted to hear this. My half of the mission is successful. Rest how we'll get into the book.
I don't like those people कि इसे डालने के लिए डाल दिया एक पैट यार. एक सीन था उसका पूरे बुक में, एक सीन start
from where the story started basically. So a story basically have a to and fro, like it's more of a diary entry. You can say that diary entry सामने है, so it's a to and fro, what was happening and what is happening. So what is happening obviously. So what is happening is actually what is happening, and whatever past is being discussed about is all the diary entries that are getting read technically, and so that's the whole part. So how do you like to go about it? You would want to go as it is in the story, to and fro, or do you want to go like in a series, so past se shuru karte ho and then you get into a present and then you tell, or you want to go like to and fro, or you want to divide the responsibilities that one will talk about the past and one will talk about the present?
Let's divide, because I think it will be more interesting if we divide, if we don't go into the past as to what is the diary entries she made. Just give a gist of what's happening in the present, and then we move to when they find the diary, and we can then tell ki diary mein likha kya.
True. That works good for me. I hope that works good with everyone else as well. But I don't know who among the viewers have read Gone Girl or probably seen Gone Girl. Like, any one of you have read or seen Gone Girl yet? I mean, yes or no? Yes or no लिखने में ज़्यादा मेहनत नहीं लगती है, by the way. Said that. So yeah, so I'll handle the past one. What do you say? Or you want to handle the past one?
Works. Whatever works.
Okay, that's a nice MCQ. It's like paper आया है, so answer the following one is correct. A, B, C, D, and she's like, whatever works for you, you know, like let it be.
मुझे जान लगेगा कि ये part is very close to me, you know, and I have to explain it. That's when I'll jump in, because I am fascinated by this book, okay, and I will be very biased when I talk about this book. Very honestly, I will be very biased when I talk about this book, because it's a dream book. It's an ambitious book that I always wanted to, you know, pen down some very psychopathic thriller. So every time I read it, I am learning something. We will. So every time I read it, like, I'm learning something new, okay, especially, and is again, जैसे सौरभ ने बोला कि इसकी movie भी है, and we all book lovers do know that the movie never does justice to the book, but this is one of the very few, I think probably the only movie that I know has done, I think 80% justice to the book, because they've kept majority parts very similar, except the end, which we'll get there when we get there. But till like 70% of the book movie is very similar to the book, and I like that about this particular book, movie, both. And also, this is like this thing, what do you say, सौरभ के दिमाग में एक आइडिया आ जाएगा मुझे कि since we are also working on a book, तो वो क्या सोचता है, क्योंकि मुझे पता है मैं क्या सोच रही हूँ और उसको भी पता है मैं क्या सोच रही हूँ, क्योंकि मैंने उसको सुना के पका दिया है कि ये बहुत अच्छी बुक है. So this time I'll know कि how will we work on this book. Like a groundwork that you are laying.
Okay. That's smooth. And that's no pressure at all. Obviously, क्या pressure डाला तुम? बिल्कुल भी pressure नहीं डाला. So okay, we'll handle it like that. I'll handle the past scenes and you will handle all the present story going on. So let's just jump into the story, and later on we'll discuss all the different elements, and we'd love you to be a part of the conversation as well. कुछ भी पिंक करते रहो यार, विनोदी लिख दो चाहे. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So I start with where do I start with? Okay. Let's start with Nick wakes up. They are in Missouri. So उसके पहले there's a background. So they were living in New York.
Hey, background was my part. Oh, wait. You have to tell the
present. Start karo.
Arey, so what you start with the present, na? They wakes up and what happens or what he finds out, and then past की बात चालू होती है. You're jumping into the first scene सीधा past away. That's not fair. That's not done. At least climax पे छोड़ो ना. So the first climax would be the first interesting scene where he finds out something and then he's worried. तो उस climax पे छोड़ो ना. So you have to leave it at the climax. Then people have to be wait कि अरे ये क्या हुआ, past में क्यों जा रहे हो? We want to know ahead. Okay? Yeah.
Yeah. Let me rephrase.
Exactly.
Nick wakes up, and so the story starts with Nick is seeing Amy's head. Okay. And his thought is that he always remembers her head, and he sees the skull, and he has this thought in his head where he wants to break open the skull I'm not trying to smile at her, just to see what she's thinking. He's curious. Okay, he's curious about what his wife keeps thinking because he cannot understand it anymore. Okay, he wakes up. Then he wakes up to the smell in the kitchen, breakfast and everything, and he sees that his wife is making breakfast. Amy is making breakfast, and it's a very rare thing that happens anymore. So he's happy about it, and then he remembers that it's his 5-year anniversary, which is why the whole breakfast scenario. So he remembers he's not gotten her any gift. He's like, "ठीक है, बाद में ले लूँगा." And he gets ready, and they own a bar. So he with his twin sister, they own a bar, getting ready, and he's on his way to the bar. इधर उधर भटकता है ये वो. Eventually he's very frustrated. He's shown very frustrated. He's super. This thing is. It seems that his marriage is not working out when he reaches the bar. The bar is also not doing that well. There's just one customer sitting, जो हर Thursday आती है, and he has a drink with his twin sister. Margot is the name, but through the book they go like Go. So Go is the twin sister, and they keep having discussions about his life in general. She knows that. So they also share a very good bond because twin sister hai to he's like boom say she's always had my back and everything. So he tells her everything, and these days he's not telling her all the things, but as much as he can. So I think she is like the closest person that Nick has to himself. And suddenly there's a call when he's sitting in the bar. So there's a call, and it's his neighbor Carl. Carl calls him and says that your front door is open and your cat is outside. Now Nick goes like, okay, I was anyway leaving, 15 minutes I'll reach and everything, because my neighbor is like, I can't go and check it out. He's like, yeah, I will. He goes outside, and this is unusual. Okay, Amy does not leave the door wide open and just goes off somewhere. So this is unusual. He sees the cat, and he's like, so he describes the cat as a stupid cat. she doesn't, like, she's not smart enough for the streets. Agar wo kabhi street pe chali gayi, she's not going to make it. And then he says, but she was so stupid कि वो step से भी नहीं नीचे उतर पाए. I don't like that description, but anyway, he sees that the cat is all safe and sound, and then he sees the door. So he knew that Carl ने बोला था कि door is wide open, but to see it actually wide open, he was very surprised because Amy is not this irresponsible, immature, not careful about these things. So he just knows that something is wrong, goes inside, and there's a, like, he looks around bedroom में, there's a चाय रखी हुई है, टी, गैस चालू है, ऐसे कभी होता नहीं है, सामान बिखरा पड़ा है. So he knows that there was some struggle, नहीं तो सामान क्यों बिखरा होता. And he looks around the whole house, and he realizes his wife is missing on their 5th year anniversary. And yes, then that's it. He calls the police about it. The first thing he does is he calls the police. So yes, that is the first chapter of the book. And then they go in the past with Saurabh and they go.
And then the original story brings in that how did they met and how did everything happen. So they met at a certain function where Nick sees Amy, and they just get into a conversation, and Nick is like, let's get out of here, sort of. And then they both are going out, where Amy is a little skeptical because it's night, it's New York. So the scene is in the New York in the past, years into the past, almost 7 years back into the past. And it's a late night, and then Amy is like, how can I even trust you? And then they have a certain gesture. So he asks Amy that, why you don't trust me. Then she's like, your whole gesture and stuff, your face, it doesn't look like trustworthy. And then they sort of have a gesture. That gesture goes constantly throughout the story, basically. And so they go out into the backyard, you can say. They were walking onto the streets and talking around it, when Nick, suddenly out of nowhere, they go to the sugar, like at the backyard of some, it's sort of a restaurant or something like that. And it's snowy, it's basically snowy, and they have that movement of Sugarcoat or what do they say? I forgot the exact word basically. Sugar something.
Sugar,
Sugar?
sugar rush,
Sugar Rush, yeah.
sugar rush.
Sugar Rush, yeah. And it's snowy as well. And then he expresses his will to kiss Amy. And that's the moment that when they officially started dating out of nowhere after a few minutes after meeting each other, you can say. And then, so that's the moment when they met, you can say. And that's the entry that's been told, the origin story,
That's that
how Amy and Nick came together.
boy meets girl karke. So in the book, it's a bit different. So they meet, and then for 8 months, Nick has disappeared. Okay, he loses the number that Amy had given. They meet at an event. He loses the number that Amy had given her, and then it was like too late to, embarrassingly late to finally make an effort to get in touch with her. But yes, they do meet after 8 months being apart, and that's when this sudden thing happens, and they just start dating just like that. It's like, do you see that? They just start dating just like
Just
that.
like that.
And so they are dating, and they're very you can tell about their relationship starting with how they are.
Yeah, so they have, so as कि एमी का एक बहुत नहीं शॉक में हम बाद में आएंगे, we'll keep that thing little saved. So the relation, it's more of a sweet and cozy और नया नया जो चलता है types वाला, that fun है, बहुत ज़्यादा मजा आ रहा है, बहुत ज़्यादा over the top जा रहा है, everything is going right. It's an adventure, you can say. They were on a roller coaster ride where it's a fun theme park adventure that both of them were having, and there's nothing wrong, nothing sort of Nick, and they tell that Nick is a journalist and she's all a part of जो भी उसके parents करते हैं, she writes as well, and amazing Emmy में उसका कितना like जो भी है वो, she's amazing Emmy and this and that, and that goes on and on and on.
Yes. So yes, matlab, so there are references of her own self,
but that comes in when like you tell the present, let me handle the past. I know when I have to tell that.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. I'm leaving it for the sudden moment. You just get into the present. I know when to tell it.
Okay. So then coming back to the present, Nick realizes his wife is missing and he calls the police. Detective Rhonda shows up with Giplin something, Giplin. I don't know how it's pronounced, but and so Nick is very confused as in kya karna hai, kya nahi, and he's being instructed by the police. So they make a point as to how he's the baby in the house, and he really does not like that. It's like kya baby, but eventually they land up at the police station, and the police asks him all sorts of questions, and he keeps answering, and so it's shown that Nick has not been very attentive to his wife, so he does not know a lot of basic questions ke answers. So they ask him if she has any friends or something around this town. He says no, she does not have any friend. Back home, yes, but yahan pe koi nahi hai. And it keeps going, like they keep asking. They ask Amy's blood group, and he does not know Amy's blood group. And then they're like, okay, have you called your in-laws? So he goes like, no, I was waiting for, yahan se nikal ke I would have called karke. So yes, basically he is swarmed with investigations, and yes, that's it. He's swarmed with investigations, and they keep asking questions. And the chapter ends with, the present wala chapter ends with, this is the 5th lie I have told the police about Amy. That's how the chapter ends. Okay. And then there's another diary entry where this happens, where they get married, and they start
Very
quoting
nice,
each other.
very nice.
I know.
Yeah. So again, also
Very confusing.
yeah. So the diary entry talks about again the pastime जहाँ पे Nick they've been dating for a couple of years now, and Nick have known a lot about Amy's parents as well and about Amy as well, and they get talking taking up a references because Emmy naam hai Amazing Emmy ka bhi. So he's like, oh, it's you, and Emmy's like, no, it's not me, it's the programmed version of my parents basically. So Amy does not play the instrument, but Amazing Emmy plays the instrument. Amy does not own a pet, but Amazing Emmy owns a pet. So her whole childhood was technically programmed in a certain way. You can say a manuscript was written and Emmy was made to follow that manuscript by her parents, and that's how it was. So she had no will, no control over whatever was happening in her life before, and everything was programmed in a certain way by which her parents can sell more copies probably. That's how it's being shown, and Emmy is very fine with that. Like some ways, yes, she feels bad about it as well, but now she has done okayish with it as well. It's like ठीक है, traumatized childhood था, but they are my parents, so whatever is going on for good of both of us. And that's the movement where the journalist Nick plays that whole thoda sa cameo, journalism cameo types. And are you freeze or are you here? Okay, I was like, you're freezed or
No.
something. Okay, so इसी दौरान he proposed her, a sweet proposal types proposed her. Do you want to explain proposal as well?
Go ahead.
नहीं जर्नलिज्म, क्योंकि जर्नलिज्म रिलेटेड प्रपोजल है ना, राइटर्स प्रपोजल. सो आई एम लाइक, would I spoil it or do you want to really put it
No.
to the right word?
Go ahead. मुझे सिर्फ उस पे डालना है that when you said that she was playing the violin and she was playing the instrument. Amazing Amy would play the instrument when the real life Amy would not play the instrument. So basically, what they were trying to portray is that जो भी real life Amy couldn't do it, Amazing Amy did in the books.
Yeah.
So the parents want Amy to be a doctor, but she became a writer. So Amazing Amy was a doctor. Parents wanted her to learn violin, but real life Amy did not learn it. So Amazing Amy learned violin. But then she was happy with it, and she's like, हाँ ठीक है, मतलब she kept it alag, and her parents would also say that don't read too much into it, ये वो. But she accepted that it was their passive aggressive version of whatever it is. It's not nothing to do with me. She was very clear about that, and that's when Nick proposes to Amy.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And the another reason why Nick plans the पूरी वो चीज होती है because the event is actually the Amazing Emmy's wedding की जो book होती है उसके बारे में है. And then they sit down with the journalist and their parents have clearly shown it that Amy and Amazing Amy are one person. The world does not know कि दोनों में कितना ज़्यादा difference है. So she was sitting with the journalist and the journalists were asking the questions that now how you two are same, कि कितना अलग हो तुम दोनों तो, because you are not married as we know, but Amazing Emmy is married. उसकी book उसी के बारे में बातचीत हो रही है. And then when the Nick pops in as a professional journalist and starts asking the question that, as my fellow journalist asked you that you are not married, is it true? But are you dating somebody since 2 years? Then she's like, yeah. Then he's like, oh, but you don't. All those sweet moments he starts to put up in a questionnaire manner. Like, you don't correct Mr. Nick when he says mispronunciate some words. You do not correct Nick when he does not know what's a meat and what's this and that. And she's all going like, yeah, sweet, this and that, ha ha. And she's liking it. It's liking a sweet gesture. She felt that Nick is trying to save him from those weird questions of the journalist. And then suddenly he says that, okay, so you're dating Nick since 2 years, but you're not married. Then they're like, yeah, we are not married. We are seeing it through. Then she's like, okay, do you want to change it? And there comes the ring. And then he's like, and that's a very sweet journalist, professional proposal, you can say. And that's why they get married. And I feel कि Nick का thought इसके पीछे ये था that they were earlier talking about it, और obviously उसने a couple of years से देखा भी था that how it is affecting mentally to Emmy, that Amazing Emmy और Emmy में कितना ज़्यादा difference है. So for the once he wanted to make it sure that Amazing Emmy and Emmy are one. For not Emmy ये feel ना करे that I'm so belittled that मेरे parents जो है मुझे पसंद नहीं करते हैं बल्कि एक fictional character को पसंद करते हैं. So for once he wanted to tell that you are Amazing Emmy because Amazing Emmy is getting married and now you are getting married as well. So I think that was a very sweet thought behind the whole scene. And that's how they get married.
Absolutely. Yes, that's how they get married, and they're not like your a run-of-the-mill couple. They're very interesting. She's not the nagging type, and they make fun of those couples who are, and they're not very sweet or affectionate in terms of words, but they always seem to be on the same wavelength. And yes, so Nick finally gets done with questioning and decides to eventually call Mr. and Mrs. Elliot, who are Amy's parents. So he calls them, and so she has disappeared since morning, and he came to know around, I think, afternoon say he's knowing, and he calls them around midnight. He calls them and they're like, "Arey, ab kyun call kar rahe ye wo?" And he's like, "I was busy with the questioning," and they come to the police station, they answer a few questions, any enemies, सारे questions मिलते हैं, कुछ enemies है, कुछ ये है. They don't know anything, they are confused, but eventually they go home, they rest, and next day they have a press conference. Now, in this particular press conference, people are asking stuff. So Nick is very confused. He's frustrated with his married life. Now we know it, and he should be more worried. He should have more that कि क्या हो रहा है, मेरी wife missing है. But he was focusing on being pissed off at her because of all the past events that she made him go through. So he was acting very weird. He was not being himself. He was not being rational at that point of time. And only his sister came to know about that. And she did tell him that you're very weird. So he was like, "ठीक है, मैं क्या करूँ? What else do I do?" So next morning he shows up at the press conference and he looks like he's not slept well and everything. And while they take a picture, it's a natural instinct कि you just go this. So his wife is missing. It's a press conference for his missing wife because they have to announce her award. And Nick smiles. Okay, he has a very killer smile. So he smiles. Now we have to understand that all these things look very bad to the press. It could mean something very harmless. Like Nick was just Exactly. I mean, I don't want to say, but कोई भी मर्डर केस होता है यहाँ पे इंडिया में भी, तो we know कि एक गलत move and what the media houses do. So that's what happened exactly. Even if it was a small town, that's what exactly happened there. He just smiled, and that's when hell started breaking loose. So the police were supposed to clear him of all charges, but they were still not able to wrap their heads around it and everything. And then next day they turned this hall into a Save Amy kind of a shelter, kind of a thing, where people can come help, जो भी volunteer कर सकता है. And that's when he meets this another person, just random stranger, who brings him, who's being very sweet to him. She brings him food and she's trying to chat up with him and He forcefully takes a picture. Even Nick is smiling in that picture and everything. So he's in his head, he's like, "Get the fuck away from me." Okay. In his head, he's saying all those things. But in real, this thing in front, externally, he's all like, "Okay, yes, thank you so much. Thank you for coming." But in his head, he's like, "Get away from me." She tries to touch him inappropriately, but usme bhi he flinches and everything. He's just like, "Get away from me." So this is what happens. And yes, eventually the police find a clue, an envelope which is written "first clue." So now, like we said, she disappeared on their anniversary, on their 5th year anniversary, and the police is like, "Ki ye kya hai?" So he's like, "Arey, this is a treasure hunt that she does every year." And now the thing about acha, ye tum le lo. They do this.
Yeah, so it's a thing with the Emmy that she does a little treasure hunt with him every year basically. और थोड़े glimpses हैं किस में क्या किया था, but I don't think we have to just go deep into that. But the main thing is that treasure hunt is a part of it, and he knows about it as well. And he was already 5 year शादी में and frustrated, already marriage हो ही रखी है. So how they get into Missouri? I think this is the right time that to say that how they get into Missouri, तभी उनको आगे का treasure hunt समझ आएगा कहीं ना कहीं. So how they get into Missouri was the part that as Divya mentioned earlier, that they made sure that they are not the couple जैसे और लोग होते हैं, and they would always hate, sort of, you can say, or they'll always be like repel the other couples, and they used to always discuss that maybe we won't end up like them, and they always made sure that they don't end up like them. And so it was a recession time in America basically when things happened, and they both lost their jobs, and but they're still figuring things out. When it was they find out that his mother, so Nick's mother has been diagnosed, and so they decided to take care of her. They'll move to the they'll move to Missouri. But in the diary entry, it's been shown a kind of by Amy that she was not consulted with the decision. Like she wouldn't have said no, but she was not consulted. She was taken up as an object की सामान की तरह कि हाँ हम न्यूयॉर्क से मिजोरी शिफ्ट हो रहे हैं तो मुझे मेरा बैग साथ लेके जाना है. She was taken like that, and she was like, we could not save the mother obviously, and the mother died, but उसके साथ somewhere like the mother of the Nick went away, and then his father had Alzheimer, तो उनको care taking home में वहाँ छोड़ देते हैं, and their relationship starting to falter out just because Nick had nothing to do. He would just sit down all day spending on different stuff, buying different stuff, playing games sort of, and she said that she never wanted be a nagging wife, but Nick was assuming her to be a nagging wife, and just for the sake of the Nick, probably she became a nagging wife. So it was all a messy thing going in her head that we decided we won't be this, but Nick is thinking in his own head that I am this, and that's why maybe I am becoming this. So it's all a perception game going round and round and round and round in their past. Basically, when they have a little fight, they have a little discussion around it, that what's going on, and she starts noticing those nagging stuff जो पहले notice नहीं करती थी. That why are you wasting time? Why are you sitting back? तुम late night क्यों कहीं जा रहे हो? You know, and I guess that's a moment where baby talks comes in as well. Like we should have a baby sort of like to save up a marriage, and it's totally against it. And they had a little argument, a little fight, you can say as well.
So yes, so because they both did not have jobs, but so when Nick lost his job as a writer, he was sulking and everything, and 2 weeks later something, Amy lost her job. So he did not see it as something, oh my god, are you okay kind of a thing, because Amy always had her parents' trust fund to fall upon. So this was always a topic of this discussion where, he was like, you don't have it, you have it easy, you don't know, I've been working since I was 14, and she's like, yeah, but I still work, I clock in, clock out, and it's not fair to me, I'm not always this thing. And of course, but she did have the trust fund, and but it was not enough for them, and even her parents were in debt, so she had to give them the money. And the final amount, that is left suddenly. So even Go became bankrupt. So Margot, Nikki's sister, even .com bubble, even she became bankrupt. Then she became an investment banker. And then the 2008 recession crisis happened when even she lost her job. So Nick and Go decided together to open a bar, which they called The Bar. And he borrowed money from Amy because he did not have money, and that was the last of their savings. And that's when the baby topic comes up, and to save their marriage, because now they have to move to Missouri, and Amy and Go have always been very judgmental about each other. So Go is like, I've never understood her. Amy's like, I don't know, you just have to be in the right kind, for Go to be there. You have to be in that mood, otherwise you don't understand her. So both of them did not understand. They would stay in New York, all three of them, but they would not meet a lot before they all moved back home. And so Amy was so when Go called about their mother dying and they moving, so yes, just say you said, so Amy points out that he could have come and told me we have to move. I would have understood. I would have even suggested and insisted that we did. But he came assuming that I will say no. Yeah. So he came with a defense and an offense ki nahi tujhe chalna hi hai, that post wala. So that happened. But they eventually moved to Missouri, and that happened. Then coming back to the present, they
found the envelope.
Arranged for.
They found the envelope. They found the envelope.
Yeah. Found the envelope, में first clue था.
Yeah.
And the detective accompanied. So this guy, Nick can never decipher the treasure hunt के clues. He was always like कि मुझे नहीं समझता because Amy हमेशा जो clues डालती थी that were more on memory and Nick's memory never served him well. So but he read the first clue and he knew कि where is it? It was his old office where he would be a professor in journalism. पहले पढ़ाता था. So he went there and the police accompanied him. They were searching the office with the second clue where the police found a red panty. So Nick just said that we did something यहाँ पे. It's just an inside joke and internal joke and everything. Yes. And the police collected it as evidence and Nick found his second clue. So he just told detective, I'll open it later. And like, ठीक है, तुम अपने आप figure out करो. We'll see what is to be done. Then eventually things are not really progressing. They're still trying to find out क्या है, कौन है, कहाँ है. And suddenly someone says कि you have to check out the mall. वहाँ रात को drug dealings होती है, you know. You have to eliminate all those options. The police go check out the mall in the evening. They are like Nick is like कि मैं वापस एक बार मुझे वापस check out करना है. वो next day जाएगा वहाँ पे. And रात में he goes home. He's like drunk and everything. And he opens somewhere the second clue. But वो postpone कर देता है. Like अभी नहीं करना मुझे ये वो. And he wakes up to this talk show happening where now Amy is a small town celebrity, okay, because of her book. So now in that talk show, like I said, कि media हमेशा करती है. So this host goes like you have to तुम्हें she's been missing since so long, ऐसा हुआ है, ये हुआ है, and look at the husband. This husband has he's smiling, and then they have a chat with the woman who was there helping him with the food.
Yeah.
Yes. So she pins him down, and that's real bad reputation for him. So his sister calls him. She's like, you have to go do something really active today. So even though he didn't want to go out today, he had to because society. So he goes to the mall उस दिन शाम को. He checks it out himself. There are other people also. Amy के पापा भी होते हैं. There they find out that Amy bought a gun. The chapter ends. Then in diary entry. You want to take that?
It was in the past, around when they had this little fart about the baby that to save the marriage. As Amy said, that she was suddenly becoming someone that Nick was thinking that she is, but she wasn't, and which they promised each other they won't be. So, but suddenly Nick went violent. Nick went very repulsive. So she started being afraid of the Nick that ins baby talk incident happened, and थोड़े से argument के साथ साथ physical हो जाता है. So she starts thinking that at any time, at any moment, probably Nick might kill him, and she cannot leave obviously, but she cannot stay in as well. So she is in that dilemma कि how can I be safe for myself, because no matter where I go, Nick might find me and might still kill me. So to be on a safer side, to save herself, she thinks that हर दिन और हर रात ऐसे डरे उठने और सोने से better है. That it will be better if I have a gun with me for self-defense purposes. So that's when she decides to buy a gun.
Yes. So yes. So okay. And ये जो डायरी है, जो भी हम past और present का करते हैं, तो past में जो भी Saurabh is saying, they are diary entries.
Yeah.
जो अब तक वो डायरी पुलिस के हाथ में लगी.
So whatever we are telling, पुलिस के हाथ में लगी है. हमने नहीं बताया पुलिस के हाथ में लगी है, तो obviously नहीं लगी है. So you're revealing too much too soon. Build up more suspense. Wait, chill. We'll get there. Yeah, जब वो डायरी we'll get there. Relax.
Anyway, you want to now say what the first clue was about? So at this time book में present में आ जाती है ना.
Yeah, second book, second clue, no?
He goes takes the second clue, but ठीक है.
Let's do that. What second clue was and what you find over there, and then we'll get back to कि वो clues ऐसे क्यों थे.
हाँ. Second clue मैं भूल गई क्या था.
The second clue में it was about Brown's house. Brown's house. So he knows in his head that what Brown's house is basically, and he rushes into. So there is a छोटा सा ऐसे आप बोल सकते घर नहीं बोलेंगे, उसको घर भी नहीं बोल सकते हैं. It's a backyard sort of a house जो उसके father का होता है. Father's backyard sort of एक होता है. और तो वो वहाँ पहुँचता है वहाँ पे, and then it's like all alarm and all goes on, and police was already following him obviously क्योंकि police didn't trust him, and तो फिर वहाँ पे जाके उसको third clue मिल जाता है, but he hides it with himself obviously, and then police comes in and they're like, what are you doing over here? Then he's like, I was just checking it out कि it's property of my father. My father is in a caretaking home. He has Alzheimer. So I was just checking it out कि किसी ने तोड़फोड़ तो नहीं कर दी, or it's not burned down. So I was just passing by, and he lives वहाँ से. And he had already found the third clue, which he's not able to decipher. अभी इतना नहीं होता. Yeah.
So he even mentioned कि अब तक Amy was being very easy with the clues because वो कभी भी he never reached past second clue, and that was just once. उसके बाद वो कभी first clue से आगे भी नहीं जाता था. But this time she's making it easy.
Yeah.
So,
and after getting to Brown's house, he actually figures out कि ऐसा क्यों Amy, what was Amy actually doing. But yeah, so वही yep. And उसका जो house has been turned down into evidence place, so he's staying with Margot basically.
Margot.
And Puri.
So yes.
Yeah. Go ahead.
He's staying with Margot, and they keep talking about what went wrong with his marriage and why is he always pissed off. And like we said, he's super close to Margot, and so he has to now. मतलब he feels कि उसको एक रोल निभाना पड़ रहा है. वो रोल नहीं निभाना पड़ता अगर एमी यहाँ होती. And he's questioning a lot of things. He has done also a lot of things. जैसे diary entries में बोला गया, he became violent towards Amy and everything. So all that happened, and so so police has already has searched his apartment, searched all the places. They've tapped all the phones, and
then they find out
Nick
the bills. They find out the bills. Okay, your internet is stuck, or my internet is stuck. Oh yeah, it's working. Hello, check sound 1 2 3. Are you here? So I was saying that. Yeah, so I was saying then when police finds out the bills, and the neighbor, the friends, and they start questioning more. Okay, you are hiding things from us.
Yes. So police के साथ वापस बात होती है, and the police goes like कि एमी की best friend ने आके हमें कुछ बताया है. तो like कौन best friend? The neighbor. तो then उसने ऐसे ही brush off कर दिया कि जो मतलब बहुत लोगों को लगता है because Amazing Amy is the comic, so a lot of people think that they know her and they latch onto her as friends, but Amy does not consider them as friends, and they are like हाँ ठीक है, ये भी parents ने भी यही चीज बोली, so they are like ठीक है, we are on the same page. But then they start exploring Amy का past, where there are some ex-lovers, then there's some Hillary जिसने एमी पे पहले केस किया था. एमी ने उस पे पहले केस किया था
स्टॉकिंग, अटेम्प्ट टू रेप एंड स्टॉकिंग.
वो सारी yes.
Yeah, so they were two past lovers. So जो parents बताते हैं, out of which only one Nick knew about basically. So they were two past lovers. One was in the high school and one was just before they started dating. The one in the high school was one जो breakup के बाद उसको पूरा stalk वगैरह करता है, and then they had to get the restraining order. और जो उसके बाद होता है, the one was like attempted rape के charge में already, मतलब he has faced all those legal obligations and all. And then he's like, alright, मुझे आधा पता था, आधा नहीं पता था. And then they think that probably Daisy Collins is the one जो high school होता है. Daisy Collins is the one जो high school वाला होता है, and he was stalking him already. और उसका जो hometown होता है वो nearby ही होता है. So they were like that, thinking कि क्या पता उसी ने कुछ किया or something like that. So the police says, alright, this could be an angle as well. We'll consider it as well. And yeah.
And then suddenly Nick has a visitor in the middle of the night when he's staying at Go's apartment. He is drunk. Go has gone to bed, and he opens the door and he finds Andy there. Andy, he calls her inside and he's like, "What are you doing here? We can't be seen in public and everything." And she goes like, "But I was missing you so much." And Andy is a 23-year-old student of Nick, who Nick was having an affair with since a year. He was having this affair with Andy since a year, more than a year. And she is trying to figure out, she's like, "Should we tell the police?" He's like, no, I'll be in jail if we tell the police. We have to hide it for now. And he tries to console her, convince her. He's spending time with her 2-3 hours, and he goes into the past as to how he meets Andy. Want to take that? So she's teaching as a professor. She comes, कि मेरा ऐसे पढ़ लो and everything, and he finds out that she's flirting with him, and he's okay with it. He drops her home, they go to her apartment, and it starts as a one-time thing, he tells himself. But the one time turns to a lot of times, and he decides कि वो बोलेगा एमी को बोलेगा, कभी ना कभी बोलेगा. But it was over a year, उसने एमी को बोला नहीं था before this happens. And suddenly this woman is here, and he's consoling her, convincing her that nothing wrong is going to happen. She's like, "Please tell me you love me no matter what." And he's like, "Yeah, I love you." And at that point he realized that he'd stopped loving Amy a long time back, and he was not capable of loving anyone else. He realized that. So he sends her home, and because uski sister aa jati hai, so sister is there. "Hell are you doing? Are you out of your mind? You're idiot and dumb." And he explains this to his sister, whatever he was feeling. And firstly, his sister asks him, "How old is she?" And he's like, "You really want to start with that?" So she's like, "How old is she?" So he's like, 23. And she's like, "How has the police not found you've given some thought into cheating on Amy?" It comes across like that. So that happens, and he knows it looks bad, but everything, he's like, "I'll handle it for now, this, that." And he convinces his sister, he's convincing his own self, it's very fucked up, it's a very screwed up situation, but he knows he'll get out. So that's what happens. Then there's another diary entry
about I guess the bills part comes first, no?
Yeah.
The police finds the bills. Yeah, the police finds the bills.
So there are two things. Police finds the bills, and even he goes and talks to Hillary and Delphi, both of them. So police find तो उसके जैसे हमने बोला, उसके सारे स्टेटमेंट स्टैम्प होते हैं, सारे स्टैम्प होते हैं, पुलिस नजर रखती होती है. तो पुलिस comes across his credit card bills. Now his
Emmy's
credit card bills has
Emmy's credit card bills.
Emmy's
so
credit
now police
card
suddenly
bills.
finds out that the home, the bar, so everything was on the name of the Emmy, and then the police finds out that उसके credit card पे बहुत सारी shopping होती है of golf clubs, video games, toys, which technically he used to like. और जैसे Emmy ने अपनी diary entry में भी लिखा था that वो पूरा lazy होके बस खेलता रहता है दिन भर and just keeps buying stuff और कुछ भी नहीं करता है. And then plus they find out that Emmy का insurance जो है वो निक ने फाइल किया था of making it, the amount बढ़ा दिया था एकदम से. A larger insurance, उसका already insurance को upgrade करके a larger insurance was filed by the Nick. And when police asked, and then he's like, it's another case, you have to find it out कि कौन झूठा मेरे नाम पे credit card का खर्चा कर रहा है. It's somebody fraud because I don't have that stuff. And plus he says that okay, I filed the insurance just because Amy wanted me to file the insurance. And then he's like, oh wow, कितनी अच्छी कहानी है ना तुम्हारे पास कि Amy ने तुम्हें बोला कि मेरा insurance बढ़वा दो. I mean, how do that work? So yeah.
But the only way that Nick is for now left is not taken into custody is because they cannot find all that stuff. So even though they know it was paid via his credit card, they could not find it in his house. So वो चीज थी पुलिस के पास कि यार अगर है तो कहाँ है.
Exactly.
तो एक वो क्वेश्चन था. Then again, like we said, Nick has to do something to preserve his reputation. He gives a call to Hillary. So Hillary goes like, I never, जो भी था, मैं भी 3 बच्चों की माँ हूँ, मैंने एमी से कभी कॉलेज के बाद बात नहीं की है, ये वो that. That's a dead end. Then he's like, ठीक है, but let's see what happens. Then he goes and pays a visit to Desi Calling. Now Desi Callings के घर जाता है, उसको पहले कॉल नहीं करता, उसके घर पहुंच जाता है. And so he's heard stuff about Desi Callings. You want to go into the past? Desi Callings.
I mean that high school वाले main part था that they were Daisy Collins and Amy were dating, and Amy ने बताया था that Amy broke up with Daisy Collins because he became बहुत possessive and stuff like that, or he won't give him her the space to breathe. And when they broke up, he started stalking Amy, started sending letters to Amy, और वैसे ही उसको एड्रेस भी मिलता है निक को भी उसका, एंड स्टार्टेड स्टॉकिंग, और फिर रिस्ट्रेनिंग ऑर्डर्स के बावजूद भी ही वाज मेकिंग श्योर दैट समहाउ टू गेट इन कांटेक्ट विद एमी, maybe threaten her and stuff like that.
Yes. So he pays Desi a visit, and he has been told a lot about Desi in the past, but it was all through Amy. And Amy said that he made me meet his mother, and I look a lot like his mother. And that's what even Nick sees when he reaches Desi ke ghar pe. Suddenly there's a voice, and Daisy's mother comes out, and she looks freakishly similar to Amy, like Amy, old Amy, अगर वो कभी बुढ़ी हो गई तो. And Nick like knows that at least ये part सच था जो भी बोला था. So he's already aggressive towards Desi, and he tries to talk, and Desi is like कि पुलिस ने मुझसे already बात कर ली है, तुझे नहीं बताया. So he's trying to rile Nick up कि only when the police is not completely ruled out the husband as the accused, तो as the like offencer, तो उसमें ही वो लोग नहीं बताते हैं सारा information. So he was थोड़ा this thing also. He was like, no, I wanted to come and talk to you myself. I wanted to look you in the eyes and know what your story was, know what the deal was. And Daisy said, yes, I read the letter. I used to write letters to her and everything. She showed it to you. So he was like, yes, she would put them in the trash without reading, but I read them. And he was like, okay, so you think that only I wrote the letter. So he was trying to rile Nick up ki, there was something going on between them even now. And that was also not like a very fruitful visit. Other than that, Nick was even more confused कि scene हुआ क्या था उस सुबह वो गई कैसे. So ये सारी चीजें होती है. And yes, then there is another diary entry about.
And he figures out the final clue as well. उसी के बाद he figures out the final clue, and then उसी के दौरान he figures out that in clues को इतना easy होने का plus इन सारे clues के exact यही clues होने का एक reason था. And he finds out that the final clue that कि उसकी बहन मागो के गैराज में उसने सारे टॉयज सब कुछ छुपा के रखे होते हैं, और वहां पे एक फाइनल प्रेजेंट रखा होता है जिसके लिए सारा ट्रेजर, तो जितना भी क्रेडिट कार्ड से जो भी स्टफ खरीदा गया था वो सारा वहां पे होता है मागो के गैराज में. एंड देन देयर इज दैट फाइनल प्रेजेंट जो वो खोलता नहीं टेक्निकली बिकॉज़ ही इज ऑल लाइक होली शिट. एंड देन दैट्स द डायरी एंट्री जहां पे एमी रिवील्स दैट how she finds out Andy, or that she has found out about Andy and Nick basically. And the most disgusting thing that she felt about Andy and Nick was that the movement that Nick and Amy shared was the exact movement that Nick shared with the Andy of that the sugar and the snowfall was a scenario, and that pissed her off basically. And
yes. So they find that the final entry that so all these entries sum up to how Nick has become very violent, very aggressive. There's one entry where he's cheating at the end, and so these are all the entries. And he comes to this shed where he sees all these toys, and he's like, I am screwed. I am the one.
Because now everything has been framed so well. Like now he's thinking that सारा सामान यहाँ है, and Amy has planted the clues. The first thing that Amy knew all about Andy and that. और डायरी एंट्री में फिर उसने बहुत क्लियरली लिखा था Amy ने ये चीज that she find out about them. So the husband was already cheating, the husband was already spending all my money, and she was already scared of the husband, and she knew कि वो किसी भी दिन उसे मार सकता है, and that's all was there in the entry. Basically that's all that existed. And then he finds out कि सारा सामान यहाँ पे है, and then there is a present. So it means that before Emmy went missing, Emmy was obviously planning something to screw him over, or you can say to take a tiny revenge onto him कि अरे मुझे सब पता चल गया है type. So इतना अभी तक निक के दिमाग में चल रहा है that Emmy knew everything, and Emmy was not obviously not happy about his affair and all. और इससे पहले वो complain करते हैं Emmy पे, और Emmy को already पता था, but then Emmy went missing, and now it's all a scary thing. And then पुलिस को कुछ और proofs मिलते हैं निक के घर पे. The forensic and the rest. Yeah.
Yes. So they find his fingerprints on the blood जहाँ पे जमा होता है, वहाँ निक के फिंगरप्रिंट्स होते हैं. सारी चीजें निक की तरफ पॉइंट आउट हो रही होती है कि निक इज अ मर्डरर. And yes, so they tell him to hire a lawyer as well.
And plus the neighbor says that maybe Emmy was pregnant, and they find forensic report का wait कर रहे थे, and the forensic report comes and that says that Emmy was pregnant. And Nick was like, I didn't know anything about it. Then they were like, but she was 6 weeks pregnant. So he's like, I don't know anything about it.
So basically होता है कि Amy has made some contacts. She went for a gun, and she showed her face when she bought a gun, so they recognized her that she bought a gun. Then she was pregnant. She was pregnant, and जो neighbor होती है उसने उसको बताया होता है that she is pregnant. She's made some friends, a couple of people who can vouch for her कि बहुत अच्छी लड़की थी, बहुत ये थी, बहुत वो थी. And now Nick is very confused. Nick is like, what's the catch here? ये करना क्या चाहती है? Why did this happen? And he's also deliberating, should he tell the police about Andy? Should he not? Should he come? Yes. So that happens, and that is the end of book 1 in the book. Okay. Now कोई भी जैसे इत्तेफाक मूवी देखी होगी तो शायद उसमें पता होगा there are two sides to the story. There's book 1, his story, her story, and the truth. Okay, so now we come to her story.
Yeah. So now basically, so what? He goes to the lawyer. Nick जो है, he's gone to the lawyer. But now, अभी so this diary, the police starts hunting down all the places, and I guess पहले lawyer वाला part बता देते हैं, then we'll get to her story. Her story को थोड़ा सा और suspense रखते हैं फिलहाल. Let's just explain what lawyer does in start and what's happening on. Like थोड़ा सा और her story को suspense रखते हैं. Like Nick now know a little bit of the fact that कहीं ना कहीं कि कुछ Amy plan कर रही थी already before she went missing, and he has no idea that how she went missing and whatever is going on. And now he knows कि सारी चीजें अगर उसके against मिल रही हैं already, the fingerprints, all the stuff that he bought has been hidden at a place, and then the credit card bills and all, and plus insurance का premium like insurance का upgrade हो जाना. So now everyone will think that Emmy is dead and he's been killed by the Nick. So फिलहाल निक के मन में ये है, पहली चीज ये है that I have to find out Emmy, and plus I have to find out that I have to prove that I'm not the killer at least. अगर कुछ हुआ भी है तो. So he goes, a lawyer thing comes in.
तो जैसे वापस पहले उनके पास वो सामान नहीं था जहाँ से निक ने वो क्रेडिट कार्ड के परचेजेस किए थे, वैसे इस टाइम पे उनके पास बॉडी नहीं थी टू प्रूव दैट निक इज द किलर. बट निक इज वेरी अफ्रेड दैट एट दिस पॉइंट कि इफ एमी नोज दैट there was something up, if she figured out that I was cheating on her, then she will go to any length, even if she's dead, to make my life miserable. So he was very sure she could just kill herself, and उसकी body कहीं मिलेगी, and I would be the one to be blamed. And एक और चीज होती है कि जब वो now when he is being questioned about all these things, he does not have an alibi for 2 or 3 hours of his life as soon as Amy goes missing.
Yeah.
So he just says she sent me to the river to ponder about our relationship, and which is in the eyes of law, it's a very convenient thing to say. There's no Amy to confirm it. There's no alibi. So you have to, believe what he says because no one else is there to prove it. So, and kuch kar bhi nahi sakte. But the fact did remain that Nick in those 2-3 hours did not have any alibi. So no one really knew where he was except his own self. So that happened. And then he goes to the lawyer. He tells the lawyer everything. सब सच बताता है उसको. एंडी के बारे में बताता है, डेजी के बारे में बताता है, पेरेंट्स के बारे में बताता है, चाइल्डहुड ट्रॉमा के बारे में बताता है, रिलेशन में जो भी प्रॉब्लम्स होती है वो सब he tells the lawyer because he's like, now I want to, if I am going to prison, I'm not a murderer. I want to prove that, and it makes sense for the lawyer to know everything. And somewhere the lawyer is also dicey कि क्या scene है, should I believe him, should I not, but he decides to trust me कि ठीक है, we'll see what is to be done. So that's when Nick is like, ठीक, we'll figure something out, कुछ तो कर. And then
they open up the present.
Yes.
They open up the anniversary present. Yeah, but the anniversary present actually was hidden in the garage of the Margot. So it was 2 toys. So it was a reference to a story itself. So there were 2 toys. A toy with a lady toy जिसके हाथ में baby होता है, and then there is a guy toy जिसके हाथ में एक hammer sort of something होता है, wrench or hammer sort of एक चीज होती है which you can move basically. And it was a reference to a story where the guy killed the baby and his wife, and that was a reference basically. And जहाँ पे उसको click होता है that all right, so she has planned a lot of stuff and she wants to make sure that police would believe that that he is the killer. और उसी के साथ वो वहाँ पे फाइनल लाइटर भी होता है जहाँ पे वो टेक्निकली up the river, the body will found up the river भी वहाँ लिख देती है. So he is all like, all right, so she has killed herself. वो अपनी बॉडी को खुद ही फ्रेम करेगी. एंड नाउ दिस इज द फाइनल थिंग दैट बीन सेइंग कि मैंने ही मारा है अपनी बीवी को भाई. एंड एवरीबॉडी वुड बिलीव इट क्योंकि सारे के सारे प्रूफ्स उसके अगेंस्ट हैं. एंड द लॉयर, द मार्गो, द निक हैव गॉन bamboozled बाय व्हाट इज गोइंग ऑन. क्या प्यारी कहानी बिल्डअप की. और फिर जर्नलिज्म तो जर्नलिस्ट भाई, जर्नलिस्ट वाले तो छोड़ेंगे नहीं. And that's the when detective decides that all right, now we'll have to be one step ahead of this story and we'll have to bring in the empathy part. We'll have to make sure that yeah, you are bad. So I like that idea of the detective basically जहाँ वो कहता है कि देख भाई तू बुरा है, प्रूव करते हैं. Let's prove that you are not the killer, but you are a bad husband. Choice तेरी है. The audience is already feeling that you are bad. Now if you come out and say कि नहीं भाई मैं बुरा नहीं हूँ, nobody is going to believe it. So अभी हमारे पास एक ही opportunity है. It is like that you are bad, but come bad. You are not a killer bad, and that's the only way you will be survived. And then the moment जो भी वो plan करते हैं, that's the moment जब Amy's part of story has to begin. That what is this actually going on, and why is this actually going on? So you want to start with that?
Yes. So suddenly, it's been more than 30 days that she's gone. And Nick has been caught in police questioning, this and that. And suddenly, the book jumps to a chapter where Amy has dyed her hair. She is wearing a cap. She is wearing almost detective wale kapde to not find herself. She's staying in a motel in a very shady place with less money. And she has money. She has enough money. But she's staying there. She's keeping low. And she's following everything that's coming in the newspaper, on TV, and she's watching through all the shows that keep happening.
And एक चीज मैं बोलना चाहता हूँ, जो लोग ये कहते हैं ना, and this is a very long discussion that I have done a lot of times. तो जितने भी लोग कहते हैं ना कि सिर्फ method actors exist करते हैं, now they will know what method writing means. How she actually, yeah.
So yes, मतलब अभी 2 parts में चल रहा है. अब Amy जिंदा है, we know she's not dead, and we know that she's done something. We know she's planned something, and the police is here trying to figure out what is happening. Even her husband is figuring out what is happening, and she's here. She has given she's living this life. She keeps talking about their past, about how Nick was very this thing. He had to be taught a lesson. She's doing them a favor, both of them. She doesn't really know what her course is going to be like. she could, kill herself, or she would just keep living like that. Let the world think that he's a murderer. And she is still deciding वो क्या करने वाली है. And she makes friends with two people in the motel that she's living in. And उन दोनों से ऐसे normally बात करती है, but she is there all over. So she's cut her hair, she's dyed her hair, but the face is still the same, right? So she's always scared कि कोई उसको पहचान लेगा. So she's always like running, यहाँ से वहाँ jump करती रहती है. She has थोड़ा money the time being, and simultaneously वहाँ पुलिस का full-fledged investigation चालू है. They find out everything. They have character assassinated Nick to a whole new level, and Nick is like very confused, very frustrated. He just knows one thing, that he has not murdered Amy, and जब तक body नहीं मिलती तब तक he will not be taken to prison. He knows all of that. Gets a lawyer. The lawyer tells him कि lawyer और detective दोनों एक साथ मिलकर उसको यही बोलते हैं कि बता दे जो भी है सच आके बता दे. They will at least know that you've not killed her, but they wouldn't know like झूठ भी है करके. So he's also confused कि अगर बता दूंगा तो they will pin me as a murderer in their mind. वो चीजें होती है. And then Amy is on the run, but one fine day in this motel, she comes across in talk shows of Nick going on live and talking about her, and he takes their advice. He says that he wants Amy back. Whoever has any information, ये वो reward money देंगे हम जो भी है, please tell us. And like he said that Amy keeps a track of all those things. वो सुनती रहती है बीच-बीच. And she's starting to believe कि शायद he really wants me back. शायद this is what he wants. And she's still deciding कि वो क्या करेगी उसके साथ. And then she's robbed in the motel. She's robbed by those two people. She's taken all her money. Now she has nowhere to go. People think she's dead. And yes, she has no idea what to do. और यहाँ Nick goes on this talk show, tells people that he wants Amy back. Whoever has any information can please tell him. And they will do anything to get her back. He's playing that part of the husband, finally. Okay, he's pining for her, he really wants her. It all go in the past and he'll start afresh. But now Amy has no means to go back home. She has like nothing left, and she does what she thinks best is she calls Desi calling. Yes. So meanwhile, police का भी full on search चालू है.
Yeah, and police finds out.
And police finds the diary.
Police finds the diary. Yeah, a half-burnt diary.
Yes, a half-burnt diary. They find that diary.
And then they find उसी diary के through they finds out like diary के clues and all. Then they chase down the Nick and they have a search warrant for Margot's house and they find out all the stuff that was hidden in the garage, which for them was matched exactly from the credit card whatever was bought, which they definitely thought कि Nick ने ही चुरा के Nick ने ही छुपाया है basically. So diary is there, that's there, and they find out about the Andy and the Nick as well. So all the three, the hidden facts.
Also, there was another diary entry which was not revealed us to the reader. So Nick had tried to poison Amy, and there was a diary entry where he tried to poison Amy, and she figured out, she realized she vomited. And somewhere in the diary, it mentions that she still has that leftover. It's very disgusting, but that leftover poison somewhere stopped the house. So as evidence कि कभी मुझे कभी prove करना पड़े तो. So they are all trying to like find out कि वो कहाँ है चीज ये वो. And this happens. And now Amy has gone back to Desi. And Nick is not looking good at all. ये final diary entry was the last final nail in the coffin. Okay, he is the murderer. And Nick reads all those things. Rhonda is like, this is not looking good at all. What is to be done? The diary entries are very, few and far between. बीच में लिखी गई है. But they all paint a picture that Amy was running scared, and now Amy is missing, and she's nowhere to be found. And Nick is here with basic सब printed है सबके दिमाग में कि निक ने मर्डर किया है या करने की कोशिश की थी और वो भाग. So now she's in Desi's house. Desi takes care of her. Desi loves her. Okay, absolutely loves her.
A little more.
He adores her. Yes. So and Nick meanwhile is trying to find out कि उसके past की links क्या है. वो हिलरी से वापस बात करने जाता है. तब उसको पता चलता है. So a very revealing factor comes about कि हिलरी पे एमी ने केस किया था, restraining order डाला था. And जब he thought that Hillary is stalker थी तो makes sense, but when he talks to Hillary and now he knows that his wife is capable of doing something like this, he believes what Hillary tells him. He believes Hillary when she tells him that Amy put a restraining order on me because I got more compliments than her in some school, some event. Okay. And she sent a list of all the compliments that Hillary received and all the compliments that Amy received. So Nick was like, पहले अगर Nick को शायद ये कोई बोलता ना, he wouldn't have believed it. He's like, bullshit, उसको कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ता. She's very risky. But now when he saw it happening in the works where she framed him altogether because of something, he could believe Hillary. He did believe Hillary. And then even Desi के साथ जब उसने पहले बात की थी तो Desi is like he, it starts off with Amy like that. She finds you interesting. It's all good. And then suddenly you're not interesting anymore. And comes running back to him. There was one more stalker जिसके ऊपर केस but वापस ले. So to that person as well, he tells that person that talks to that person. वो person भी उसको यही बोलता है कि ऐसे मेरे में कुछ गलती. So उसको finally पता चलता है कि इन सब में गलती उनकी नहीं थी जिनके ऊपर एमी ने केसेस किए थे. गलती एमी की. So he builds that up to his credentials. He does that. And meanwhile, Amy, but things are still not looking good. There's evidence all against him. And she is stuck in Desi's house. Desi tells her to not go out.
So Desi basically becomes the male version of Amy, sort of, because उसे पता लगता है कि Amy is not alone, the psychopath over here. So Daisy starts keeping a tap on her, all the cams and all the stuff, and he has all like कि वो उसे अपने फार्म हाउस में सेफली लेके जाता है, रिवरसाइड फार्म हाउस में सेफली लेके जाता है, but then he moves in as well, and then he's all like, I'll take care of you, and this time I'll not let you go, which was said in a specific tone to make sure that Amy knows that she's not going away anywhere. And that's the moment when Amy realizes that she has walked into a honey trap herself. And yeah, so he's not hurting her, he's not forcing himself to her, but definitely he has made sure that Amy is gonna stay over here only. वो बाहर नहीं जाने वाली है.
Yeah. So that happens, and then she sees all those interviews again. She knows Nick wants her back. She believes that he wants her back, and she starts formulating a plan. She starts formulating a plan of when she will return to Nick. Okay, so you want to tell what she does or abhi baad mein?
I guess abhi. This would be the right time. So now Amy is stuck with Daisy. Nick knows कि Amy ने कुछ किया है, but not exactly. Police believes Amy is dead and Nick is the murderer, and they have to find the body and the perfect clues, and everything around Nick is being framed क्योंकि सब reveal हो चुका है. And Nick was a super bad husband. Obviously, he was at fault because he was not doing, not delivering his vows, and he was having an affair outside as well. And he was definitely wrong, which he admitted himself as well. And Andy also admitted that they were having an affair. Now, the main story jumps in that what actually happened. So what actually happened was that this is a very interesting part, और इसीलिए इसको इतनी देर तक बचा के रखा गया था, and we will come to this same scene. So what actually happened was that Amy was already, as said, having a nag in her own head, and she finds out the moment about Nick and Andy, and she finds out about Nick and Andy, and she decides that yep, Nick is a bad husband and he needs to be punished. And she decides that she'll punish Nick herself, and she'll make sure that Nick will regret for rest of his life. And her basic plan was that she'll frame her own murder, she'll go vanish, then she'll be dead. So final nail in the coffin would be जब उसकी body मिलेगी, and she had that all figuratively planned obviously. And she says a very simple thing जो मैं वही कह रहा था कि method writing, that you have to take care of the basics and you have to make sure you live it like that. So क्या क्या चीजें होती हैं जो एक मर्डर के लिए जरूरी है और क्या क्या गलतियां होनी भी जरूरी हैं. So like she throws थोड़ा बहुत सामान यहाँ वहाँ पर ज्यादा नहीं, and she makes sure कि सारे सामान पे fingerprints किसके हैं. Then she makes sure कि जो weapon है जिसपे blood मिले, that weapon would be something जो निक की नजर में जरूर ना आए but पुलिस की investigation की नजर में जरूर आ जाए. So she burns into a fireplace in the month of this June, which is summers over there. So it's like summers में fireplace कौन जलाता है? That will be questionable in itself. तो वहाँ पे वो murder weapon you can say छुपा देती है जिसपे अपना blood लगाती है. Now she says that जब कोई मर्डर होता है and when there is a fight going on and when there is तो बॉडी का मिलना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है डेफिनेटली. बट अगर बॉडी गायब होती है तो सेकंड चीज क्या होती है? when something has hit you, जब आपको टॉर्चर करके मारा गया है, the second most important thing is the blood. So she makes sure कि उसका बहुत सारा, she collects her own blood, a lot of blood, she spills it and then she rubs it, but she rubs it in a bad manner. क्योंकि क्योंकि निक को फ्रेम करना था. निक इज नॉट समवन हु इज अ परफेक्शनिस्ट इन क्लीनिंग स्टफ, सो वो क्लूज छोड़ना भी बहुत जरूरी है. शी कलेक्ट्स हर ओन ब्लड, शी स्पिल्स इट ओवर इन द किचन एंड देन शी रब्स इट इन अ बैड मैनर ताकि बाद में वो मिल जाए व्हिच एक्चुअली हैपेंड. एंड देन आपको चाहिए होते हैं एलिबाइज, आपको चाहिए जो आपकी तारीफ कर सके, आपको चाहिए वो लोग जो आपके बारे में बता सके. सो शी पिक्स अप नेबर और she picks up one of the neighbors जिसके 3 kids होते हैं. she invites her over often निक के पीछे बिना निक को बताए and they starts making a story जो सिर्फ उसे उन दोनों को ही पता हो, the neighbor and the Amy basically. So she starts making a story of how bad husband Nick was, how aggressive he was, how he would hurt her sometimes physically, and she fits into her mind. And there was another reason why she chose that neighbor only. She did not choose any other neighbor. Now one, she was a mother of several children and plus she was pregnant already. So what she frames out was that she collects her urine very smartly and make sure that testing के time पे जो DNA samples मिले वो उसी के मिले. And that's how in the DNA samples it came out that Annie was pregnant. That made Nick look even more that he has not murdered one person but has murdered 2 person actually. And the reason why she did all this in the Missouri is because Missouri has a death penalty for a murder case. So she wanted to make sure that if Nick goes into the prison, that he should be hanged till death. So that's the whole story that she did, and that's why she ran away. Then ये सारा करने के बाद she ran away very smart. She bought a very cheap car, all on cash, very under the hood ताकि किसी को पता ना लगे. Then she leaves with no belongings technically, with a little cash that she had. And उसके बाद फिर जो जैसे होता है we have already told you. And then now she is at Daisy Collins' home stuck. And now she has to make a plan of an exit once again because Daisy Collins is sort of more possessive and psychopath than even Amy was. And now Amy somewhere have believed that Nick has learned his lesson. जो भी वो पूरा मीडिया में देख रही है and whatever happened. And plus Nick even gives those couple of hints क्योंकि Nick को कहीं ना कहीं believe है that Amy is alive. So he gives those couple of cute hints of love to make sure that Amy figures out that Nick still wants her back. And so yeah.
So she plans her escape. She plans her escape, and do we want to tell that how she plans the escape and escapes, or do we tell that later when she's telling that to Nick कि उसने क्या किया?
बाद में बताएंगे ना. we'll tell it the moment तभी आना चाहिए ना जब confession है. बिना confession के moment का मजा नहीं आता. So she plans her escape and she successfully escaped. And now the next scene, the major scene is that she Nick के इर्द-गिर्द पूरे वो journalist थोड़ी छोड़ेंगे. So
she's standing.
She's out of nowhere standing covered in blood all, and she faints out in the arms of the Nick, and Nick is like you hell of a lady. What the hell is this? And then they takes her to the hospital, and in the hospital it comes out that she has been brutally physically assaulted basically. And she told that now FBI have been involved because the case has gone very mad. And she told to the FBI that there was this person DC Collins जिसने जो सुबह सुबह घर पे आता है. Now she telling the whole story that उस दिन क्या हुआ था. So when Nick goes out, Daisy Collins comes in and a normal knock, which was not very abnormal to her. She opens up. Daisy Collins forces himself to her, breaks some stuff here and there, hits hits Emmy, and then kidnaps her and takes her to his place and very brutally tortures her physically on daily basis. And someday she finds a little ray of escape, you can say, and she kills him. And that's how she ran from there and reaches to Nick. And now Rhonda has a doubt basically in her head that तो इतना सारा डायरी एंट्री एंड फ्रेमिंग एंड द गन एंड कि निक बुरा है, निक मेरे को मार देगा, निक कैसा कर देगा. And then she's like, yeah, किस husband wife में fights नहीं होती है. Every husband wife have a fight. Nick was a bad husband. He admitted it himself. And it's like कि तो क्या हो गया, we'll work it out probably. I feel safe around. Yeah, I was feeling unsafe, but I was not feeling that कि I'll be dead sort of. So whatever has happened in the past, and I've been through a lot. और अगर वही कि if मैं वापस नहीं आती बच बचा के, तो तुम तो मेरे पति को मेरे ही मर्डर के इल्जाम में डाल देता है. I've been kidnapped and you are questioning my husband, my love of my life, saying that he did something to me, he will never do something to me. I was missing, I was kidnapped by somebody else, and they did not even look out for me. And Rhonda did not believe it, but then FBI is like, the case is over, it's under our hand. And then they go home, and that's the moment when Nick is like, this is not the truth, okay? I know you enough, and especially the way you planned all those gifts. So obviously you were planning something against me, so now you tell me what the hell the truth is.
Yes. So he goes with her, he takes his wife outside. He's a doting husband. He's like, the point is that she's safe and she's back. And he takes her home, and finally they reveal their defenses, all of them that they had. She tells him that I think you will be wired. So she studied all of this. She tells him to get butt naked. She takes him to the shower. She puts the shower on so that there's water running, and she whispers the truth in his ear so that he can, even if he knows, no one else would know. So she tells him that I knew everything. I wanted to frame you, but then I got robbed and I went to Delhi. It's like, you murdered Delhi. She did not confess it straight up. She said that he was possessive, this and that, I wanted to escape. He's like, did you murder Desi? She's like, I think it's pretty late. We should go to bed. And he's like, okay, but I'm not coming to the bed with you. And he sleeps on the couch. He decides to sleep on the couch. She feels hurt. She's like, I've come back, and he's still the same. What have I done? He's not learned his lesson. She has all those thoughts in her head, and they're both figuring things out. Okay, he's like, she's like, if you don't stay with me, I will tell the world that you tried to murder. So she has that over his head, but she knows that it won't last for a long time. So he directly goes niche. He waits for her to fall asleep. He calls his lawyer. He tells the lawyer everything. And like, how was she pregnant? वो बताता है कि उसने उसकी stick पे ये किया था, urine लेके neighbor का. And he's like, please tell me you got some of this recorded. Is there any way to record this? He's like, there is no way. She's very method in terms of all these things. And they decide कि then वो सो जाता है उस रात. रोंडा को और लॉयर टैनर को नेक्स्ट डे मिलके सब सच बताता है. And they have no proof. Rhonda is very annoyed. She is this detective who wants to arrest Amy, but they have no proof. And Rhonda is like, can't you do something? Tap the shower or something. Kuch to. Like, she studies everything. She is very method about all these things. There is no way. And they're still trying to find out, something, waiting कि वो कहीं slip हो जाए Amy. And Amy knows all of this. Amy knows that somewhere he is waiting for me to slip up, something happens here, something happens there. So they are all, and she knows that he goes behind her back to meet these people and everything, but she cannot really do anything. She needs more strong this thing. Nick should support her and back her story as well, because she needs it. She also needs it as much as Nick needs it. So basically, they really don't want each other, but they need each other to stay together, or basically to stay out of prison. So that happens, and the things have reversed. ठीक है, like they're staying together, but चीजें reverse हो गई है. पहले Nick was a very heavy sleeper, उसको नहीं पता चलता था. वो जो चीजें गिफ्ट्स उनकी ऑर्डर हुई थी, द गोल्फ सेट एंड द गेमिंग का सब, ये वो सारी चीजें जो क्रेडिट कार्ड पे ऑर्डर हुई थी, उसपे निक के फिंगरप्रिंट्स थे. तो एमी ने अपने घर मंगाया था, रात में डिलीवरी खोला था, निक को टच किया था नींद में वो चीजों से, उसका थंब टच करवाया था, एंड ही वाज नॉट अवेयर ऑफ एनीथिंग. He did not know all these things happened. She confessed these things later. So so ये सारी चीजें वो लोग जब भी वो confess करती थी, वो shower में confess करती थी, ताकि Nick is never able to wire himself and get the truth out in the world. So ये सारी चीजें हुई थी throughout. They were getting their stories together कि हुआ क्या था. And but Nick then became a light sleeper and she became a heavy sleeper. So ये चीजें हुई, चीजें reverse हुई. It was very easy for Amy to guess Nick का passwords for laptops, for the उसके जो पापा का घर था उधर चीजें, उसका password is very easy to guess. But Nick is very careful after that. He kept these passwords that she wouldn't be able to guess. She knew he was up to something. He asked her कि तूने वो poison कैसे, खुद को poison कैसे किया था. She's like, मैंने खुद को poison किया. And he was again, very frustrated, annoyed, fascinated. You poisoned your own self. She's like, I planned my own murder. You think this is that? She was so casual about it. So there were times when he was once again taken aback by the madness that she would go to, any length of madness that she would go to. And then she would hear him typing in the middle of the night on his laptop. She knew he was writing something. She knew he was trying to get a case against her. So she asked him, and he said, I'm writing a book about what happened. And she's like, I want to read it. He's like, I'll give you the manuscript, but uske pehle nothing. She tried guessing his passwords when he's not there, but she couldn't get around it. And yes, so he was trying to figure something out, some loop in the story. This story bhi wo jo likh raha tha, just for that reason itself. And then one fine day she wakes up and she sees that there's an empty jar sitting on the shelf. Now that empty jar was the one where she had that evidence of the poison, just जो Nick को frame कर सकता था कि उसने उसको poison करने की कोशिश की. So this was again a testament as to how Nick has changed, how he has adapted to her ways. Because पहले Nick would never be able to find it. All these months he would never be able to find that poison wala bottle, because he was not that sort of a person. He was never attentive. He was never observant. He never make efforts to do it. But now he was on a mission to destroy her or bring her truth out to the world. So he was, not trying to incriminate himself by doing that. And at that point, she knew that he was trying something like this, and she needs something bigger to make sure कि दोनों में से कोई भी एक जन prison में नहीं जाए. So one fine day, finally, Nick gets up, has a printed copy in his hand. It's a manuscript, and he gives it to her, and she's like, what's this? He's like, this is the manuscript, like I promised. And she's like, oh, right on time. He looks at her, he's like, what? And she tells him that we're pregnant. And Nick is again left confused. He's like, we did not have sex. How the hell are we pregnant? And she confesses that उसने उसका freeze करके semen freeze करके रखा था, and it was time that because पहले they were not ready to have a baby, And then it was too late. कभी ऐसा होता मैं pregnant नहीं होती. उसने as this thing उसने fix करके रखा and she just went ahead and got it in her hand. He was like, okay, like if you want the baby, the boy, but if you want the baby, delete the book, call off the unofficial investigation that you're doing, and deletes the book. He calls Rhonda. Rhonda is confused. क्या बोले? पहले she's all frustrated, but finally she's like, you guys are very fucked up people, both of you. Like, thank you. And yes,
That's how someone is made for each other.
Yes. So the ending goes कि they are living together. Nick has पूरा role reversal हो गया है. Nick is a light sleeper. She's a heavy sleeper. There are some moments when they tease each other. They go back to how they were before all of this happened. But then he remembers she is a murderer and now the mother of his child. Yes.
Exactly. So I hope people would have enjoyed our detailed description of the whole story. But now getting to the important fact. So why should people pick this book up? What would you say? Like why should people pick this? One reason why should people pick this book up?
If you want to fuck up your head for a week, pick this book up. But apart from that, this is a very as close as a criminal insight can get. I wouldn't go as far as saying it's the perfect crime because it was not perfect in a lot of ways, but it was perfect enough कि कोई पकड़ा ना जाए. So yes.
So I'll just say that if you enjoy getting disturbed, then definitely pick this book up because it'll fulfill your desire of getting disturbed. For sure.
Definitely. मतलब I'm still like, यार, I can't leave this book, I have to go back to this book. हर बार पढ़ती हूँ तो ऐसा लगता है यार ये कैसे कर सकता है कोई इतना थॉट कैसे डाल सकता है.
That's true. और एक और अरे a very small element that I forgot. तो basically जब वो सारे clues खोलते हैं, so as I said that it was Brown's house the clue was, and Margot asks Nick that but Dad's house is not brown, it's blue in color, so why the hell it's Brown's house later over there, and when police was that oh मुझे लगा ये Brown's house, and Nick even tells them no it's still blue, it's not brown yet. So he tells Margot basically that actually जो father का Alzheimer है, so he just becomes a detective sort of a person and this and that, जिसका character का नाम Brown उसके दिमाग में है, and he comes into that house कभी-कभी निकल के उसके taking house से, and he did not tell anybody anything. He's like चलो ठीक है, he's enjoying his little moments, let that happen. So that's why it was Brown's house. And then Margot was a little upset that me who was there with you in the womb, you did not tell this about my father to me, but you told this to Emmy. अरे बताया आप देखा क्या हुआ, Emmy now framed you using that same information basically. So that was a little very cute moment I can say. And even it was that that Nick asks Margot like will you be with me, then she's like I am with you even before we were born, what do you expect next now? What do you expect more from me to do basically. So yeah, getting back to the more important question now, one thing that you would change if you had the power to in this book. There have to be one thing, you can't say nothing. There have to be one thing. You have to say out something. That's a question that cannot be denied. You have to.
It's too perfect.
You have to. I'm not letting you go. You have to. This is my second half of the thing that I wanted to do. Yep. So you have to.
I have been racking my brain since ever since we decided on Gone Girl that what am I going to answer in this segment where I have to change. I will not change anything. I am not even kidding. It's a book too close to me. I'm biased. Call me whatever, but I don't think I find any fault with the whole book.
Not a fault, but maybe something that you would have added probably. Maybe is that something you would have added. You wanted to see Margot having a relationship. I don't know.
No. Really, nothing. they have described Desi ex-lover perfectly. They've described this bond perfectly. She has basically Gillian Flynn. So, मतलब they उसने ये shared किया है कि उनका inappropriate relationship था as twins, but she has also justified it, you know. So everything has a justification, everything has an explanation. Maybe I would have wanted to see कि they grill Amy थोड़ा ज़्यादा in once she comes back. Maybe because eventually she did murder a man. So in the book they have just like given a short glimpse and उन्होंने खत्म कर दिया and she confesses everything. मतलब basically ये बताया है कि सबको पता है उसने किया है, but it's not there. There's no proof का. So maybe that I would have wanted कि थोड़ा grill करते एमी को कि you know थोड़ी fumble होती कभी कुछ बोल देती है वो, but maybe that. But other than that, yeah.
My one thing that I would have changed would be the ending. Probably I would have just ended the book where Nick finds out. Like I would have given that one inappropriate ending where Amy confesses to Nick that हाँ मैंने murders and all किए हैं, and Nick goes to like you know spills it out to Rhonda and to her sister, and then they are like, so what to do now? And on that suspense, I would have ended the book like nothing can be done or something has to be done, but there is no proof. She has confessed as well, and now he's forced to live with a murderer. So I would have just ended the book over there. Him writing a book, all that part. Okay, I mean, I don't know if that was even required because story जिस हिसाब से शुरू हुई थी, जिस moment से शुरू हुई थी, it was all about एमी का गुम होना और एमी का मर्डर या एमी का किडनैप या निक की गलती, और आई गेस वहीं जब वो सारी चीजें रिवील हुई थी and then Amy confessing to Nick कि सब उसने किया था, I would have ended right there. That would have been a perfect start and to the end. थोड़ा extra element मुझे लगा, just saying that there was a little extra element telling that अब Nick जो है उसके बारे में लिख रहा है. I mean like maybe there was not much needed to the story, to the plot of the book. I mean that's something अगर मैं उसके बिना भी किसी को कहानी सुनाता, it's a complete story still. So that's one thing that I would have changed probably. That I would little bit ended the book a little early.
But I think the last part was maybe because to emphasize on how you have to now live with the truth that you have built for yourself. Maybe to emphasize more on that. मतलब most authors शायद यही करते कि वो इससे suspense पे खत्म कर देते कि shit ऐसे कैसे कोई है सकता है, which would have been more impactful. Because just to show that you're being okay and comfortable living around a person like that, so it loses its impact towards the end, but it still leaves you with that nagging question. I remember there was this one friend of mine, and when her friend saw this movie, he was like, "यार, मैं कभी life में relationship में नहीं जाने वाला," and which is a lot of people का thought, you know. So somewhere it still leaves you with that nagging thing कि what will you do in a situation like that? मतलब चलो तुम्हें तो सच पता है, but will you pretend for the people you are around with, you know, about the fact about how your wife is a murderer? Yeah.
That I just felt कि थोड़ा सा शायद just saying शायद में कि overextend हो चुका हो probably, but yeah, writer is a writer and the writer knows better what story when to flip be out. So did you enjoy आज का हमारा session? We finally concluded Gone Girl in detail. Did you enjoy it?
Oh God, I was so nervous doing justice to Gone Girl because there are so many elements here. मतलब it's a book about a psychopathic thriller, but most psychopaths have something related, like in books, have something related to their childhood trauma. So we had to cover that as well. Ki, you know, why was she this person? Why was she this person? Is because parts of it were starting right from her childhood when her parents were these very passive aggressive people who wrote this book, okay, about her. And she was trying to deal with it, and then when a crisis comes, जैसे recession, no money, वो सारे crises आते हैं, and you reveal your own true self somewhere, like you're so mentally messed up in the thing that you bring all those what do you say, emotions out ahead and you deal with a situation like that. And then कुछ अच्छा नहीं होता, उसके बाद भी तुम्हें पता चलता है तुम्हारे husband ने cheat किया ये किया. So there were a lot of elements to the whole book, and she's compiled them all together. And I don't know, it's just one of a it's a very gripping book for me. It's a very gripping book, and I always wanted to have a discussion, and I was always very nervous and excited because I wanted to do justice to a brilliant book like that. So I am still not sure whether I've done justice to it.
I guess people
I
have
hope
loved it for sure. People have loved it for sure. People can comment and tell that they have loved or not. And I expect they have loved it. And Mira too, yeah, my perception is very simple that the book has communicated the thing that who has the right to punish somebody. So if someone have done wrong to me in any matter, so do I have the right to punish that person, and to what extent do I have the right to punish that person? And that's the answer that probably we all don't have somewhere. So that's what would be my takeaway from the book is, yeah, it's very weirdly explained that we all probably do a lot of wrong stuff, and obviously Nick wasn't right. आप कितने भी उसमें empathy sympathy जो मर्जी दिखा लो, but Nick was totally wrong to whatever he did. He did not come clean. He went behind the back to do some, to cheat, to disrespect the vows, and to not maybe discuss with her wife about a lot of stuff. But then, did Emmy have the right? Maybe Emmy had the right to punish him, but to which extent she went, was that right or wrong? And then again, Daisy Collins was wrong as well. Daisy Collins did a lot of wrong stuff as well, but did he deserve to die the way he was, murdered technically? So that's a question, that who has the right to punish someone and who does not have the right to punish someone, and there'll always probably be unanswered.
yes, exactly.
So with that,
But that was this talk. She describes it very casually how she murdered Daisy. मतलब it again brings me to a question कि कोई इतना casual कैसे हो सकता है, किसी की जान ले ली हो. There has to be something wrong with you, and of course what happened to you is also wrong. But वही ना कि कितने हद तक वो गलत तुम justify कर सकते हो कि हाँ I deserve doing this. It all brings down to that.
yep. So with that, we have come to the conclusion of episode 3 of Two Book Dragons, and we are your book dragons, me the wizard and Divya Anandani, and I hope you have enjoyed our detailed dissection of Gone Girl written by Gillian Flynn. And next week, once again, we'll be back with another book, and you guys can drop down your suggestions. You guys can DM us, you guys can drop down into the comments over here. My side details description available, and we'd love to hear from you guys that which book would you want us to dissect in this detailed manner. Basically, we're doing the job for you, we're reading the book for you, and we're telling you in-depth details. And probably if you have not read the book, or even if you have read the book, you can join in the discussions with us. Maybe कुछ ऐसे elements हो जो हमने miss कर दिए, you guys can tell us, and maybe कुछ elements हो जो आप लोगों ने miss कर दिए, you guys can tell you about that. And one very small disclaimer information, you guys can, you know it very well, हम इतने time से आपको inform करते आ रहे हैं that all the podcasts that we do follow a pay as you like model. The description में details available हैं. And if you want to contribute and if you want us to continue doing this, क्योंकि अभी तो चलो हमारे पास ज़्यादा टाइम घर में है, but once stuff get better and we started going out, then I don't know we'll be able to do this or not, but we want to be able to do this, but that'll take the resources and that'll take something input from our end, and you guys can join us and you guys can help us in raising up those resources by contributing whatever you guys want to contribute. So thank you for joining in. Thank you, Divya, for joining in. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed this and the audience enjoyed this. So see you next week, everyone, Sunday 3 p.m. on Two Book Dragons once again with a new